I can't see the Nat U Hill room, so I'm just gonna wait until TSD tells me that we're ready to go. All right, so I heard that TSD is not in the room, so hopefully I will say that they are responding in the chat on Zoom.
All right.
Hi, is that Kamala?
Pamela. Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, just let's give it a second to get set up, get ready to go. I'm sorry for the delay, everyone. I hope we're getting close to being set up. I think I'll actually be in town for next month's meeting, which is very exciting for me.
You have to lean into the mic.
Oh, I'm hearing someone. That's exciting.
You're also not on the screen.
I can't hear you well.
Julie put it on her public, right?
Oh, yeah. She does a lot of it from the car.
All right. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I don't hear you very well. Is it okay to get started?
Yeah, I think we really need to speak directly into the microphones to be heard.
Great. Okay. So I can see, do we have 6 people in the room? It looks like we've got Jean, Karen, Steve, Kathy, Pete, and then who's off camera next to
That's
Jean?
Penny Giffens, Commissioner Giffens.
Oh, hi. Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. I'm so excited. All right, online, we've got me and Kamala. So the first order of business
I'm
is
on too, Erica.
oh,
Beverly.
hey. Hi, Beverly. Good to see you. Sorry, I'm on my car on my phone, so
Oh,
I
that's
don't
okay.
see you. All right. So first item of business is approving the minutes from the June 17th meeting. Anybody have a motion on the meeting minutes?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from June. 16.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. I'm going to skip announcements for just a moment because I think that Steve may need to leave early. So I want to make sure we get to our voting business before that happens. I will give just 1 second. Kamala, if you want to introduce yourself, we have a new member to the commission. So if you just want to take a second to tell us who you are and what brought you to the commission. Please go ahead.
My name is Kamala Brown Sparks. I came to this commission because I'm also on the CAPS commission for the city, and I'm really looking at ways that we can help the city deal with the issue of drug use. And I want to have a combined effort to deal with this issue. And so I came to this commission to try and help us on this side of it.
Great. Well, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank
All right. To my knowledge, I don't think we have any new membership applications, but I did learn a fun fact recently when I was trying to work out our quorum issues, and that is that we are supposed to be an 11-member commission according to our bylaws, or not our bylaws, sorry, the ordinance that founded us. So we currently have 13 members, so we're in pretty good shape. So Thank you for joining us, Kamala. I look forward to getting to know you a little bit. Okay, so I want to turn now to the recap of the Sam Kanona's Lunch and Learn and, you know, of the talk that he gave at the Buzzkirk Chumley. And then we also had a kind of like a thought leader workshop in Paoli the day after the talk at the Buzzkirk. I think the takeaways, and I want to let everybody have a chance to talk about this. You know, I think that Mr. Quinones does a really good job of identifying the problem and telling these anecdotes and stories that really humanize people who are experiencing substance use issues. He's also, you know, good at, I think, inspiring hope and bringing like people together to work on the problem creatively. And so those are some good strengths that I appreciate about his work. But I can tell you, I've heard from several people who are really concerned about his conclusion that with the new synthetic drugs, you know, they hijack the brain in such a way that people wouldn't necessarily come to treatment on their own. And so he was sort of saying that it may require that people be arrested to be kind of forced into treatment, for lack of a better word. And I do think he's making that statement from a position of compassion. You know, he was saying, you know, people are living in these squalid conditions in these tent encampments, and some of them are being taken advantage of. And he has some stories of people who have been, you know, like prostituted out and things like that in his book. But, you know, I think we wanted to make sure there's some on the commission who don't really want to see jail as the preferred solution to substance use issues. And so we definitely, I will say, I sent out the 1-page documents, like front and back, that was distributed at the talk at the Buzzkirk Chumley on Tuesday. And, you know, they were really emphasizing harm reduction and sort of prevention, evidence-based practices that are not just incarceration. And he did clarify, he's not talking about sending people to prison. He's talking about short-term incarceration for treatment. But anyway, I just wanted to open us up for discussion. I didn't know if there might be something that we wanted to respond with to some of these concerns. So I'll open it up.
So, Erica, I heard similar concerns about that. I think what I took away from it, and having talked with Sam when he was here before and read the book and all that, I mean, I think what is positive about his talk and his time here is that he is a good storyteller, but that we have to take it for what it is, that he's a journalist and he's reporting. He's not a substance misuse expert. He's reporting what he's seen and what he's been told. And I also think that, you know, there are several ways to go at an issue. You know, I mean, not every issue, not every solution is going to work for everybody. And so that's just one, you know, that he has seen and has made that conclusion just based on the knowledge of what he's seen. But, you know, there are several other ways of doing it, of resolving or trying to resolve the issue as well. So I think if we
Oh, you muted, Beverly.
I'm sorry. Yeah, if we take it for what it is, that he's a journalist and that he's, you know, just relating, like you said, anecdotes and stories. And I mean, I think like Dreamland was really helpful for me in understanding how, you know, the opioid crisis came to the US and how, you know, that was really helpful. I think the least of us is just mean, it's just more stories. It's more information to add to the bucket. You know, it's just, so that's just the way I took it. So I don't know how other people saw it.
Yeah, thanks, Beverly.
Yeah, this is Jean. I had some real concerns even from the lunch and learn and how he was talking about these issues and the language he was using. Some of the language seemed dehumanizing. And then, the strong push for, people need to be incarcerated to force them into some treatment because otherwise they're not going to do it and harm reduction doesn't work. And I was really concerned about that idea when there's so much evidence to suggest that harm reduction does work. I think there was a lot of good in what he presents in terms of understanding how we are where we're at with the synthetic drugs and the profit margins that drive that. And I think that's valuable to the discussion. I was just concerned that he was presenting the solution of incarceration as the solution, and that, we need to be building treatment programs within jails, period. And that's the way to do it. There are lots of consequences that go along with ending up in jail. I felt like his approach was not in alignment with SUDAC's approach to these issues in our community. And so I wanted us as a commission to be able to make a public statement, whether it's a letter to the editor or something, to push back on that part of his message while recognizing the value in the other part of his message, the changes in these drugs and why they are so much more deadly and causing lots of issues in terms of functionality. So I will also say that I heard from a couple other community members as well, expressing some real concerns about this and how the general public may not be thinking through all of these issues, may not know what the evidence suggests about harm reduction. And so here we have this respected journalist saying harm reduction doesn't work. And I think we need to kind of set the record straight on that publicly.
I would just say when he was talking at the Buskirk Chumley, he did lift up harm reduction as an important part of the solution, saying, naloxone's saving lives, and he did still compliment and lift up harm reduction, but he just essentially said it's not enough to get through the issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But
his point, I know in the lunch and learn was sort of like, yeah, that might be okay in general, but now that we've got these super deadly drugs flooding the market and that are changing people's brains, harm reduction is not going to do it for this problem. But maybe he clarified that further in subsequent presentations.
yeah, I think, we have as a commission always been, and I see it looks like Nick is now in the room too. Hi, Nick. I think we've always been a friend to harm reduction and to the IRA. And I think we want to continue lifting them up and making sure that we are signaling that that's something that we value, that we support in the community. So I had suggested maybe we want to do like a social media series of some kind and just post like data about harm reduction periodically, or kind of something to like lift up that message. And then Jean and I have a draft of a letter to the editor in case that's something that we want to present as well.
I have a question before comment. Who does he blame for the overdose crisis in his book?
Essentially sort of international drug traffickers and the distribution network of synthetic drugs.
That's one part of it.
That's
The
Roddy
biggest
Roddy.
part of it being that the government pulled back all those prescriptions after they'd been saturated. Don't get me wrong, Purdue played a huge part, but with the data we're now seeing with so much evidence that there's just no other way you can be viewed is that the government did nothing to stop that gap. And they took people who were stable on medications and jerked them all off. And so and then the cartel, the scum of the freaking earth, came and saw their opportunity, and then come into plays of like global, cartels seeing that, oh, I can buy this one pack that's like worth $1 million, or go farm this opium, which is tedious and takes time, and you have to have the recipe down and stuff.
That will also protect you while you farm it.
Do what?
And while they're picking the poppies to get them, will protect you.
Yeah. And I just think that it also, the US government lent aid to these people, these cartels, and trained them. They, like we now know that we send in spec ops to train some of these cartel people when they were in the guard, Mexican guard. Anyways, I don't want to get jumped on a conspiracy trail. I just want to say that like what we're finding out now and what it looks like taking a back pictures that we can blame Purdue for doing atrocities by flooding this market with those pills. You know what I mean? There should never, first pass medicine should never be 50 Oxycontins. That's like the craziest thing on earth, But what we're finding out now is that the overdose crisis and what's turning into this endemic now with methamphetamine being more prominent is basically the government dropping the ball in the same old ways that we did when we enacted prohibition. There is an iron law of prohibition that states when you take away a regulated supply, a stronger, more unregulated supply will fill the void because humans will do drugs. Humans will drink beer. Humans will do something in some amounts. The thing that I first of all, I'm glad Sam Kionis came because I'd never really keyed into him, but it was hard for me not to fight back about every single thing he said. This is no holding to anybody for getting him here or anything, but like he made my stomach turn. Like, it was really hard. I'm just being honest. It was really hard for me to listen to him talking about meth that makes people homeless and that's what to blame for homelessness. And like all of these things, I thought these people had gone the way of the dodo. I didn't think people still like stuck up the old tropes of, hey, look, we can incarcerate our way out of this, And I think we here have proved that that's not true. I mean, you guys are all doing work that shows that that's not true. You know what I mean? The work you guys do at the prosecutor's office, the work you guys do at probation, all these places, all of us are doing work that proves that doesn't work. We know we can't incarcerate our way out of this. I mean, that's something we figured out a very long time ago. The problem is we haven't looked at enough harm reduction strategies. There's 1,000 of them that we could have implemented. Wider service programs, taking MAT and putting it into the doctor's hands instead of these clinics that just have a cruelty. It's just a culture of cruelty. They're just drug dealers, Like we could put it into a caring physician's hand who knew me, who knew him, like knows what's going on with the guy because they've seen him once a year for 10 years, I mean, there's 1,000 harm reduction strategies we could imply. I think he wants the spotlight, and I think that he does very well at rousing the rabble, and some of the stuff he said was spot on. I'm not gonna lie, like some of the things he had said about like the interdiction of the cartels and this vastly cheaper supply is exactly what happened, but it also takes away the place of our government and the people for like the physicians responsible prescribing, Andrew Kolodny and all those other people who stripped drugs from people who are, amazingly, who are doing amazingly well on them. There's a woman named Kate Nicholson who was on 300 milligrams of methadone and gave a TED talk, and if you talk to her now, what she's trying to do, and she's succeeded, is getting the prescription choices back to a doctor's and out of, the DEA's or the local law enforcement's hands. You know what I mean? Unless someone is absolutely doing, we know what a pill mill looks like. We're not dumb. It's 2022. We know when somebody's just churning out pills, but it's just, we have to start focusing that, like, what do we want? We're not going to do safe supply. We got that. Okay. We're not there yet as a people to do safe supply in America. There's not enough people saying, okay, let's do this, but we do have and could have freer access to methadone, freer access to buprenorphine, freer and easy access to syringe service programs, and not set up syringe service programs where it's like you go from syringe service program to recovery, because it doesn't always work that way. You know, uses on a continuum. Somebody may seek, you know, have great, you know, be at a certain service program and then, you know, go into a rehab and get clean, and they may go back for a little while. And that's when we really need to watch them and care for them and not punish them. You know, that's when we need to make sure we're closing in around them and offering them love and compassion, because that's when people die. You know, people die when they leave jail. People die when they come out of treatment, because those are the danger points, you know? And instead of wrapping these people and saying, oh, we can incarcerate our way out of this, we need to hold them and love them and see what we can do to help them. Where are they housed? Do you have help? How can we help you? You know, do you have something to deal with your mental health? You know, and Keone's weaves a world where he feels like, you know, spare the rod, spoil the child. And we know that that's not true. You know, we have factual basis surrounding, I mean, we could stack the entire room full of it. You know, I have about a pile this high at the IRA that's basically just like each and every, you know, study done that why harm reduction works so well, you know, and it's dirty and hard to talk about sometimes, but Monroe County has done good by that. You know, like I feel like our county has done well in like embracing the fact that this thing is something we have to deal with in a pragmatic way. You know, like we can't just go, oh, okay, it'll go away. We'll pray it away. We'll wish it away. No, we have to deal with it in a pragmatic sense, you know. I just think Sam Kionis is dangerous. And I think the rhetoric that he spouts is hateful and mean and causes shame to people. And we know like the number one killer isn't the drugs. The number one killer is the shame and stigma you feel as a drug user that just eats you alive. You know, I'm telling you from personal knowledge, it will eat you alive. You know, you will think things you never thought you ever thought about yourself, you know, and sometimes NA don't work. Sometimes those things don't work. Hell, buprenorphine hardly works for people that have long-term drug use, but we have methadone. We have other choices we could put people on and help them, you know? So I just wanted this, I'm sorry to take up so much space, but I felt like this, you know, listening to this man, I was going to go to the bus Kirk Chumley and I didn't because I'm not someone who can curb my voice. And I felt like if I said something, I'd embarrass my friends and colleagues. So I wanted to stay away. So it wasn't like, you know, I don't know. I like all you guys and I don't want to cause any ruckus. So I just saved it for talking here, you know, but like all that came off him was waves of danger. How can I get away from this guy? How can I get, I mean, like it hit every street radar I have, you know? And so anyways, I think it was worth seeing because I wasn't sure that like in Indiana, in Bloomington and Indiana and stuff like that, these people were still there except for up at the State House. So like this was eye-opening for me. You know, I didn't like kind of gave me a little pride in my community and what we do. You know, I kind of felt, well, God, we're doing pretty damn good, you know, like, but
Can I interject something here
Please,
just real
please.
quick? So I agree with what everybody is saying today and understand. And I think some of what he had to say was pertinent to us, what we do and how we do it. But it's interesting. Yesterday, I sat in on a webinar from NDCI, National Drug Court Institute, regarding alternatives to incarceration. Does incarceration really work for this population? And it doesn't. And the longer you keep them in, the worse it is. And hell, they can get more drugs in jail than they can on the streets. I think there's more people dying of suicide in jails than there is out on the streets, according to what this webinar indicated yesterday. So the incarceration piece, I mean, the access to treatment is what we need more around here than we need anything else. And I know I'm preaching to the choir. I know I am. And, you know, I'm hopeful that if something happens where our jail is concerned and getting a new jail, that there's something, if they are incarcerated, they will have access to good, verifiable, evidence-based practice treatment in the jail, because that's what's going to work. And, you know, we try not to, you know, we don't want to put some of these, what we would consider low-risk individuals in with these high-risk individuals, because honestly, if they stay in jail longer, they come out worse. And evidence shows that, and that's what this webinar indicated yesterday. So I like the fact that Gene and Erica have both developed something, and I'm anxious to see what you guys have said and written down. Again, I was going to go to it as well, but I read his article in the paper, And I decided probably not that I'm not as vocal as you are, Nick, when it comes to that. I'm much more passive. I kind of sit back and listen and then I bitch after. But I decided not to go as well. Not that I didn't want to. I thought it was just best that I not listen to that, because I agree with some of what he says. I totally agree, but the incarceration piece just kind of hit me wrong, and I didn't necessarily agree with that.
Well, I might jump in at this point then, because Erica drafted a potential letter to the editor. And I had a few ideas for maybe how to tweak it, but Erica, we wanted to run this by the commission, get some input. And before I do that, Nick, I think your perspective as a person, both with lived experience and who's doing the work on the front lines, is incredibly valuable in this discussion. So thank you. Okay, so I'll read this to you. It's 2 paragraphs. It fits in the 200-word limit for letters to the editor. Monroe County Substance Use Disorder Commission, or SUDAC, was a sponsor of an evening with Sam Quinones at the Buzzard Chumley Theater on September 13th, 2022. We applaud Quinones' work to the extent that it serves to humanize substance use in the United States. Quinones effectively identified and explained the current issues that we face with powerful synthetic drugs, methamphetamine and fentanyl, which are widely and cheaply available and result in profound mental health issues and overdose deaths. His message of hope is inspiring, encouraging community building and creative collaboration to save lives. However, SUDAC respectfully disagrees with Quinones' conclusion that people addicted to methamphetamine and fentanyl may have to be arrested in order to effectively find treatment. Jail should not be the preferred response to this crisis. SUDAC supports the use and expansion of evidence-based solutions to substance use issues in Monroe County, including harm reduction efforts and community-based treatment options. An arrest carries collateral consequences, such as an inability to find housing upon release, which hinders progress for an individual trying to break free from addiction. We must foster access to health care in our community, including diverse, on-demand, non-coercive drug and alcohol treatment resources for people who need them. So that's the initial draft. I had a suggestion for revision. First paragraph, instead of his message of hope is inspiring, encouraging community building and creative collaboration to save lives, to maybe something like his attempts to encourage community building and collaboration are admirable. However, we disagree with one of his recommendations, and then go into, just because some of his language and message isn't necessarily a message of hope, even though he is trying to come up with solutions.
Right. I went to the Buzzard Chumley and saw him last night, or saw him when he did. And what I came away with, one, he really emphasized that community or building community is the way to go. So I think that should be emphasized, because that was a really good point that he did.
Kathy, I'm sorry, I cannot
Can't right here. Okay.
make out what
Is
you're
that better?
saying. I'm sorry.
I went to the Buzzard Chumley and saw him, and that night, one of the really good thing I thought he did is he really emphasized that building community and making that sense of community with people who are using or in other struggling with other items. That's the way to help them. And so that really came across. I think, like Beverly, we need to remember he's a reporter. He's not an expert. He's a reporter who's reporting on what he's seen and what he has seen with the years. So he's telling the stories that he's heard from other people. So that's what we're doing. And the jail thing, one thing that I thought, yeah, I did reacted like you guys know, you don't throw people in jail to get them into treatment. But what I think that maybe he wasn't thinking through is what I thought he was proposing is that for some people who are in the midst of an addiction, there has to be a time when they're not using in order to be able to, and am I right? In order to get that stop point. It doesn't have to be, that's what I've read.
Yeah, that's what he said. He
That's
said
what I
about
thought
6
you
to
was
7 days.
Getting to. So that's all.
So the thing is, I like the way the letter's written. I had thought about putting an IRA letter out, you know, and saying, listen, this is, and I didn't until I came to this meeting because I didn't want to do anything out, like, I wanted to make sure we were all on the same front and talking and, you know, the problem is it's dangerous. This man, it's more dangerous that he is a reporter. It reaches further. It gets to more people. I mean, and he braces himself as a subject matter expert. Regardless of if he comes out and says, I'm a subject matter expert, he wrote 2 books on a subject. He's going to be considered a subject matter expert when he is not. He's never worked anywhere that has anything to do with this. He has no like fathomable idea about stigma, obviously, or he wouldn't have said the things he said. He said meth makes you homeless. Like, I mean, that right there should be enough for us to be like, oh my God, you know, and I don't care how we write it, but like, it should probably, if it was me, I would write, you know, I'm ad-libbing here, I would write, you know, the first part of the letter that you had, and that him talking about building community is amazing. And I'd put, unfortunately, you know, we can't fall prey to the sort of stigma mongering that this man is producing, you know, and that for every person who hears this who's a drug user, they probably hate himself a little bit more now, you know. That wasn't a message of hope to anybody who uses drugs. It was for the people and the other people, but no person who uses drugs would get any hope out of what that man said. They'd feel hurt, shamed, worthless, and probably do more drugs that night. So like, I just want to give that to you as like an idea of what would happen to the people that he supposedly wants to help. You know what I mean? And I don't think that he's trying to do that. I think this is the thing he's figured out, and it has value in places. You know what I mean? Like the stuff he talks about community building is everything. It's all about community building. It's what we did here. It's why we work. You know, I wouldn't work as well without Kathy and them. We just wouldn't function the same way. You know, we have an ebb and flow that keeps us checking each other and balancing each other. And it's a dance that we have to do, you know, that makes it worthwhile. But like, there is something that if we let people like this and their rhetoric, if we give it a pass, it's the same thing we give a pass to every hate monger. You know, here's a pass, keep spreading that hate, brother. Here's a pass, you know, keep talking horrible about drug users. You know, if we could get drug users to even talk about their drug use, we could probably win most of this epidemic. But these people can't even talk about their drug use, let alone feel utterly horrified by this man who's now getting popular. You know, I mean, if his goal is to help, or, you know, I think he hides behind the just reporting the news. Everybody knows that media is everything these days. You know, what you read, what you intake, it's what controls our world. You know, media is everything. And he's cornered a little place for all those people who have hate towards drug users or any of that, and they can gather right there behind him. You know, the people who've been like COs, for instance, they get a bad rap. But you know how hard it is to be a CO in a prison where you got all these people like chomping hate at you all the time, and all you're trying to do is go home to your wife. You know, like, I mean, there are other sides to all of this, you know, and I just think that anytime we're not talking about loving and caring and opening up the floodgates of that, then we're wrong. So I just think that maybe it should be have more teeth to it, that like what you're doing is dangerous. You know, your message may be good, but you are endangering drug users by what you're doing. I don't know how to write it that well, and I'm happy with what you guys put out. I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in. I thought about, like I said, I thought about writing a letter to the editor, and I thought it would be of much more value for me to talk to you guys and for us to decide something that has more weight, has more feel. And I think especially since we invited the guy here, like it makes us look a lot more upfront and real. You know, we can't control the people we bring here, and we need to hear from everybody. If we only heard from everybody who said rah, 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 we'd be just as bad as the others. You know, we have to have conflicting point of views or we can't think right. You know, I mean, we have to see each side, you know, so I think it was important that he came, but
I'm wondering, you know, I mean, there you are. I think you're making a very good point about recognizing the harm that was done by the language used, the stigmatizing language. And so while the draft of the letter definitely clearly disagrees with his recommendation of incarceration of folks, would you recommend that we include a statement in there that SUDAC also condemns the stigmatizing language that he used because it directly harms our substance using neighbors? Or,
You know, maybe my commission can write a resolution.
I'm sorry?
Say again, Cammy.
Maybe my commission can write a resolution condemning that type of hateful speech. We wrote a resolution condemning hateful speech toward Muslims and people that are Jewish. So we're doing it to populations of our community that are marginalized and treated unfairly. So we can do it for people that are substance abuse users that are treated poorly in our community, and then say that we don't accept that kind of speech in our city, especially by somebody that we brought here to educate our community, and they've done something that could actually pose a harmful situation, and say that that's not something that we stand for, that kind of harm, and say that although we did bring him as a speaker, that's not something that we support as a community and as a city, and that we're sorry that that happened at an event that we supported.
So one of the things that I would suggest, and Nick, I really like what you said and how you put it. And I wonder if a letter to Mr. Quinones might not be appropriate. Just, we appreciate, thank you for coming to Bloomington. We appreciate you being here. Here are some things that have been raised in light of your remarks, and just want to put that out there. It could be a situation where no one's ever said that to him before, and so he doesn't realize the harm that as Nick is saying, the harm that he's doing to people who are suffering from substance use disorder. And I'm not saying not to put it in the letter to the editor, Jean. I'm just saying that might be another piece that would go a long way in helping to educate him as well. Because I do know that after his first visit here, he did come back and talk to folks in the community. And when I talked to him the other night, he actually took a card from our after hours ambassador and wanted to talk to him about his experiences. And so I think, Nick, I wish, well, I guess it is recorded, what you said, if we could take what you said and share that with him, because I think that he needs to know how he's coming across to people, and especially people with lived experience.
And I think adding something in there about like us being always open to anybody's opinion. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to just shit on the guy, like we brought him here. We can at least say whether we agree with it or not, we'll continue to hold opinions that we might not agree with, or that others, to be freely bringing this sort of, open format. You know what I mean? Like we brought him here. Great. That doesn't mean anything on us. We thought it might be a good thing. Great. No problem. But it gave us another view. For me, it made me realize that I had to be way more cautious and way more like appreciative of my community, if that's where he's coming from. But I think though at the end, and I think writing him a letter is a great idea. He's probably heard it before. I've seen a couple of debates with him, but just the fact that if we only do it for us doing it, it's worth mountains,
Yeah.
Maybe adding to the letter to the editor that like, we can no longer live in a world where stigma and shame haunt the drug user every day. As we know, this leads to more death than anything else, and I don't know about drug using neighbor. I think people feel scared about that on both sides, but I like where you're going with it, Gene. Maybe our people, our communities, people in our community who might be using substances, something like that.
Okay.
But I mean, we have to, I look around at all these people dying of time. I go to all these funerals and all these memorials, and we were at the overdose vigil the other day, and Cass, who's been like a mentor and a friend to me for years, couldn't speak hardly at it. She couldn't hardly get the words out anymore. you know, and it kind of knocked my socks off, you know. I'd never seen Cass like hoarse of voice and not being commanding the space she was in. And it's because there's just so many people gone needlessly, you know what I mean? Just so many beautiful lives wiped out, you know, and most of the cause of that we now know is the stigma and shame that leads to all this other stuff. And then we internalize it and then send it back out. And I would say that the people who use drugs internalize that stigma and then throw it out back into their community, you know, creating hierarchies in drug use, which is all fictitious BS in the first place, you know. But if someone like this guy's coming, we need to make sure that we're in defense of it afterwards and that we're at least stating this is who we are, even if we brought him here, you know, and that we'll continue to bring interesting speakers here, whether we agree with them or not, because that's how we hold a free and open world. You know what I mean? That's how we show that we are open to any side of the story, you know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I sort of wish we had more than 200 words to say
Yeah.
some of the stuff, but I think you
Can
know,
I remind you,
unfortunately,
Erica, that if you do a guest column, it can be longer than 200 words.
oh,
And
guest
I think too that we should point out that we brought, or we were part of the group that brought Mr. Canonis here, but it has sparked other things that we want to really drill down on with our own community.
So can I make a suggestion for next steps? Because it sounds like commission members are in agreement that some sort of public response would be helpful. We may also want to send a letter directly to Sam Quinones, explaining our position as well. But for the public response, maybe it is a, you know, special column. Would it be a good next step to send out the beginning draft that we've got to commission members? You all then can respond with input points that you think need to be included. And Erica, maybe you and I can, you know, kind of collaboratively try to beef this up more and make sure that, you know, the commission members are in support of the final draft.
yeah, so I already thought of some revisions I would make just based on Nick's comments. And I just want to say, Nick, too, that you were definitely like in my heart and mind when I started, you know, hearing what everybody was thinking about and hearing Mr. Quinones. So you have our support for sure. And I just want to, yeah, like I think we should just take a stab. Maybe Jean and I can take a stab at editing the letter that we have and circulating it for input from the group. You know, for purposes of open door law, we're not allowed to approve anything by email. So if we have to maybe call a special meeting in like 2 weeks or maybe sooner if we need to get it finalized, once everybody agrees by email, we can do that. You know, I think I just have to get an agenda together and get it noticed properly, but that, you know, I can do that. But I think this has been a good discussion, and I am kind of glad to hear that it sounds like many of us are on the same page. I do think it's a good idea to consider what we might say to Mr. Quinones based on Beverly's suggestion too. So maybe Jean and I can adapt the letter to be addressed directly to Mr. Quinones as well. But I think for now we've got to move on just in the interest of meeting time. But that'll be our next step, is getting those letters, the language of those letters together and circulated around. So
Eric, I gotta head out, Erica, but thank you, and I'm anxious to.
all right, thank you, Steve. I appreciate it. Good to see you.
Also, if we would just recess this meeting, we could call it back into session pretty quickly, I think.
Oh,
As an alternative. And
fun.
Peter's checking with lawyer right now to see if we actually have to meet in person to vote on the letter or to approve it. So
Great.
Peter may have something to add here. And by the way,
Okay.
Bill Newman in the commissioner's office was hoping to get a check sent out today to the Buzzkirk Chumley.
So that's been taken.
Great.
care of.
So
Thank you.
while I appreciate the credit, I am nowhere smart enough, nowhere knowledgeable enough to answer this question. So Molly Turner King is here and she's going to talk about something, and I'm stalling a little bit so she can get her mic ready. Is it be good?
I think it's on.
All right, cool.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Oh, there it goes.
Yep.
Oh, no, hold on. I was just gonna say in regards to circulating an email, with the draft letter, I think it's fine as long as it's between Erica and Jean and there isn't a quorum. But you have to remember too that open door law says that receiving information can constitute a meeting too. So I think the safer way to do it is once you and Jean get a draft, you can send it to me and then I can circulate it to the group as your staff attorney.
Oh, thank you. Good clarification. I'm always learning something with SUDAC.
So what about the final vote? Does that you have to have a quorum in person?
I think the final vote on the draft should be at a meeting.
I mean, yeah, we'll have to think about getting together a quorum because that's what, it's easier now that I know that the number is 6 definitively, but
Erica, we had 7 in the courthouse today, so.
I know, I'm very proud of everyone. And next month I will be in person, I believe, because I don't have my meeting in Indianapolis next week or next month. So, okay, so I think what we may do is Jean and I will work on those drafts. We will send them to Molly. And then we'll try to, I think we could try recessing this meeting and then getting at least 6 of us back in a room to vote on it in the next couple weeks. I'm afraid that if we wait a month, it kind of loses the impact of response. At least that's my feeling on it.
I'll clear time to be there.
Okay.
A week or so,
what's that?
a week or two, I'll clear time to be here in person if I need to.
Okay. Thanks, Nick. Good to know. Okay, so we just have a little bit of time left. I think Nick, I think you had been maybe going to reach out to Dr. Cook about a possible lunch and learn in November. Do you have any update on that?
The office didn't return it and I tried to ask him on our meeting there, so I'm gonna send out another email again. He just,
Okay.
staff and or change staff people, the one that I knew real well. So I'll send out one, probably today, this afternoon when I go and ask.
Okay, sounds good.
For the minutes, I had trouble catching everything you said. What was the update?
There was a person who worked for Dr. Cook for a long time who scheduled all of his stuff and her name was Kimberly Buck. And so I always just called up Kim. I was like, hey, Kim, get me a schedule with the doc. Well, she's no longer there. And there's kind of this like go-to to get in there. So I sent him an email and I hadn't gotten anything back yet. We have this other thing we do together as a coalition. And I texted him inside the chat box, but he didn't respond to me either. So I'm just going to send out another email.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Nick. I appreciate that. I can tell you I'm still working with Andrea Havel to get materials for from the last summit that we had so that we can start looking at those and thinking about what a 2023 summit might look like. I think scheduling wise, we're going to have to probably focus on the fall next year just in order to have time to get the logistics together. Is there anyone who might be willing to serve on sort of a initial planning committee to think about what a 2023 summit would look like?
Oh yeah, I'm all over that.
All right.
She was too.
Sorry, what was that, Nick?
I can too.
Oh, Kathy, thank you. All right, once I get that info, I will try to get it to you guys. Kathy's right across the street from me, so I should be able to walk it over. And then I'll just maybe give you some of the questions, the easy questions, like you know, how many days do we want it to be, and you know, what our theme or audience might be, and then maybe we can start really getting into some of the weeds at the next meeting. But I will share that information with you too when I get it. For opioid settlement funds, I learned at my Orange County meeting that there's a state website called Next Level Recovery that has some information from the state about the use of those, the opiate settlement funds. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Molly is she's working on a memo about how we can use those funds locally. And so once we receive that, I'll share that with the group. We did
Eric, I
receive
just-
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Can I just make one quick comment? The National Association of Counties also has a clearinghouse of information on how counties across the United States are using opioid settlement money. And I've asked Molly to include that link in her memo.
Okay, great. Thank you. We did receive the invoice for the Canonas event. It ended up being $2,035, which is less than the amount that we had approved. We had approved $2,225. So we're in the process of getting that obligation paid. All right, so the other thing I will say is if you haven't already taken some brochures and some posters to distribute, I think that's also an important way to let the community know who we are and what we're about, so that, you know, it's not just about Mr. Canonas, but it's about some of the other work that we do. So if you haven't already done that, please see the commissioner's office for some of those posters and brochures to distribute. The brochures, if you recall, have local resources for people who are experiencing substance use issues. So, and then the posters have QR codes to the content of those brochures as well. So, and those were brochures that were designed, Jean worked on that, Cass from IRA worked on that, and they turned out really nice. So just a push to continue getting those out into the community. All right, so now I think I didn't give anybody a chance. Are there any final announcements that anyone would like to make before we recess?
Register to vote.
All right.
I have a
Carrie?
reminder. Beacon's Homeless Memorial Vigil is on the 29th of September, so it'll be before our next meeting. So if anyone wants to
20
attend, it's at 7 and it's on the courthouse grounds.
Okay. Thanks, Karen.
Hey, Nick. And I'm not sure who the other person is for the summit planning. I'm on the community health improvement plan for the substance use group. So when I get more of the information for that, I can pass along that information that people are interested in if you'd like.
Thanks, Camel. I think that would be really helpful. All right. Without further ado, then I will
And
go ahead and.
Erica, if
Oh,
you
sorry.
recess without a specific date, you'll have to give notice of the meeting. So if you email me notice, I can make sure it gets posted in this building.
How far in advance do I have to give notice?
48 hours.
Okay, I can do that. Okay. All right, so
Continue
um,
this meeting or fully
do we
adjourn?
want,
Are-
sorry?
like, Are we continuing this meeting or fully adjourning this meeting and then we'll have a new meeting later?
Well, I think it sounds like functionally, we're gonna have to notice it either way, unless we pick a specific date right now for 6 of us to be in the same room.
Okay, so we're adjourning then, and then we'll just give adequate notice for a whole new special meeting later.
Yeah, will that work, Molly?
Yes.
Okay. Yep, I think we'll just go ahead and do that. Although, I mean, if you guys have availability, you can let me know that now, or you can send me individual emails with your availability.
The lunch hour is really good. So if it's urgent and it's something that we can need just to do quickly, lunch hour is really good.
Me too. That's a really easy time during the day for me to be.
Okay. All right. Well, I will, yeah, I'll get with you on potential dates. And so I'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting, and then I will, once I pick a date, I'll see who's available. And if that works, we'll get Molly notice in time for us to be in legal compliance to finalize our letters. So, all right. Thank you all so much. I felt like this was a good conversation, and
Thank you, Erica.
Thanks, Erica.
I look forward to seeing you in person next time.
Bye, Erica.
Bye.
I can't.